We're live.
We're live now.
Well, no, we've got to do CDC first.
I had changed the schedule.
Ready?
Are you ready?
Are
you ready?
Judy?
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call to order the Glens Falls Local Development Corporation board meeting for January 9th. We have a quorum. All members are present except for Lois, and let the record report that. Let's see, let's start with our minutes from Thursday, December 12th meeting in 2019. Has everyone had a chance to review those minutes?
Yes.
Are there any questions, comments, changes? There being none, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? Abstentions? There being none, the motion is passed. Thank you. Before we do the payment of bills, I'd like to go over the CFO financial report. And Ed, if you would also update us on Mike McCarthy and what
Yes,
his last day with us.
Mike McCarthy's last day was December 31st
Okay.
of this year as a result of him undertaking a new engagement with a firm in Colorado. And therefore his time back in Glens Falls will be somewhat limited, particularly during the first 2 weeks. He did complete, prior to his departure, the 1099s, which were completed and sent out. And we did have another meeting between Mike and Mark Toomey for the continuation of the transition into the bookkeeping role at this particular point. Mike is able to continue with the city in the capacity of assisting the Community Development Office with their review, which doesn't happen only about twice a year. So there is not a tremendous amount of workload with Mike in regards to the community development aspect. Doing that, he does not undertake any financial reports with community development other than reviewing, sitting down with the auditor, as well as with Jackie and myself mid-year.
And will he be preparing our CFO financial reports and supplemental information going forward?
Mike?
Yes.
No, he will not. He does not have the time to do this.
Okay.
So
No, will Toomey?
Mark, yes, he will.
Okay.
Yes, he's actually working on one right now for Mike to review to see. Mike has been very helpful in working with him. Mark is very familiar with QuickBooks, and Jackie has also been very helpful in the transition to Mark.
Okay. And will we do anything further to replace Mike?
I think we need to, that's an option to evaluate, going forward, to see how the transition, the amount of time that Mark is working essentially part-time now. He does have one other part-time position in Saratoga with a not-for-profit organization.
So maybe what we could do is have a committee meeting and have at least those members meet Mr. Toomey, and
Yes, that's what I would
maybe make a decision on that.
recommend
Okay.
in later this
February
month
or
or
March?
February, March to do that with
Okay.
the audit and finance
Okay.
committee meeting.
So, so we have the report for the month ending December 31, 2019, which in effect is our calendar year end report, and our total liabilities and net assets is $120,203. Are there any other questions about the statement or the supplemental information that's provided, the schedules? Okay. There being none, for purposes of the record, I'd like to have us accept this report into our record, and if there's a motion to accept that.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays, any abstentions? There being none, the report is accepted. As part of the report, Schedule A shows, payments of bills that we will do for, that month, and that, let's see, includes, $784 for Fitzgerald Morse Baker and Firth, $850 for Pepe Productions, $591.25 for the LA Group, $2,250 for our EDC contract, and $455 for McCarthy and Conlon LLP. Any questions about those bills? There being none, is there a motion to approve the payment of the bills?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays or abstentions? There being none, the motion is carried and the bills shall be paid, and leave it up to you, Ed, to, let, Lois, our treasurer, know that as well, as I know she will be signing off on those
Yes.
in the office.
She did come in on Monday, and review the bills, all the bills here, so she
Great.
was in.
Okay. So, let me report first that, I've got I think this is on the old agenda and not the new, but we were anticipating having a discussion today about 70 Warren Street, and we're gonna hold that off either to a special meeting or next month, depending on the developer. There was a proposal that was made on Monday to modify our agreement concerning that project. There were some errors and omissions in that application. It came in so late, I really didn't want, and Ed didn't wanna bring that before this body without those items being corrected, and so there'll be a technical assistance session between, Ed and Kara and the development team for 70 Warren Street. They'll make those corrections, and that'll probably come back up. The issue there is that they have a tenant and some additional work needs to be done in order to prepare the inside of the building for that tenant. I think most of the exterior work has been completed. Any questions about that?
Just so the request is obviously the IDA has to provide consent to the additional funds, as well as increasing the sales tax exemption, as well as a modest increase in the mortgage tax exemption to an additional $3,000 to $4,000 with that. So those are the two exemption requests. The pilot remains, which is a 12-year pilot. It's now in its 5th year. Next year will be the final year of the first 6 years, which involves the current payments on the building plus 0% on the improvements. The next 6 years will be current payments on the existing building structure, as well as 50% on all the improvements going forward. So that will begin in 2022. So it's a total of a 12-year pilot agreement.
Okay. Any questions about that? So there is no motion that I'm gonna put forward related to that, but hopefully down the road we'll hear that again. Ed, would you like to do your CEO report?
Yes, and I'm going to incorporate and drop right down to the Opportunity Zone Forum. As we proceeded last year to submit to the Empire State Development a request to the governor to be included a portion of the city of Glens Falls, which is primarily the west side of Glens Falls, into the Federal Opportunity Zone. The governor recommended that to the Department of Treasury, which did approve that opportunity zone in Glens Falls, as well as an opportunity zone in the town of Johnsburg. And in discussions, I think it would be helpful for the IDA to assist in developing a forum for the downtown opportunity zone opportunity, so that discussion can be had with prospective businesses, as well as others that may have an interest in this, as well as inviting prospective investors that may have an interest, and some banks that specialize in this type of funding opportunities to participate as well. I have been communicating with Harris Beach, which has set up a unit within their law firm for opportunity zones, and I think this would be helpful in education process for Glens Falls, as well as we would look to have a separate forum for the town of Johnsburg. The interest of both in the county are important. The interest in Johnsburg may relate more to specifically lodging, to be connected to North Creek and Gore and Orda, as well as perhaps looking at some other opportunities in North Creek, whereas in downtown Glens Falls and the western part of the city would be more looking at continuation of mixed-use buildings in our area, as well as other development. The extent of projects that would be available under the opportunity zone are numerous. There is a very small list of limiting factors for businesses to be developed. So I think this would give an opportunity for people to ask some questions, as well as provide some education in the area, as well as to the media. But again, our key is really reaching out to certain banks, as well as investment houses, to become more involved and interested in Glens Falls. So part of the thought process is to look to develop a brief portfolio for the city. ESD has offered some assistance in providing us with some data and information on a state basis that could be helpful to putting our portfolio together with this there. So I think that's something we would look to do in March. By the time we get organized and get ready, it would be something we'd do in
Would you
March.
put together also a list of sites that are available for sale or vacant in that area?
Yes, and that's where one of the coincidental factors has been with the Brownfield Opportunity Area on the west side of Glens Falls comes into play. They are developing a list. We did have a public meeting 2 weeks ago. We'll be having a final meeting on the BOA coming up in early February. And so that list would be available right off the bat. We can mention one, and that's, of course, the Just Beverage site. The former St. Alfonso site is an opportunity that would be available for redevelopment with particular uses.
And what's our role gonna be in this? We're gonna be one of the sponsors?
Basically, what we're going to be doing, because potentially these projects can also be available for portions of IDA funding as well, such as a pilot or so forth, we would take an active role in sponsorship. We're really looking to work with some area banks, as well as some investment houses, to provide some assistance for us.
But in terms of the specific event itself, there'd be an event, and we would be one of the sponsors?
We would be one of the
it?
sponsors, yes.
And if you would put together a budget for us that we could see of what the cost is gonna be, I think that
Right.
would
Yes.
be helpful.
Yeah, we are also looking for other sponsors. I would be looking for EDC to sponsor this, in so much as we're involving the town of Johnsburg in an activity to kind of have part one and part two. I think that it's best to have maybe two separate forums on this, because of the uniqueness of each of our areas.
Okay. Anything else to report?
And the next thing I'd like to talk about is that one of the things that we really need to look at is updating our IDA website through the significant changes that have been required by ABO. I think that we really need to look at a redesign to make it a little bit more user-friendly, as well as providing a little bit more information, and kind of just reformatting that a little bit. As an example, today, this being our first televised on YouTube, we're going to be needing to have a link to that placed along with a permanent kind of notice relative to that. So instead of just kind of sticking notices here and there on it, I think that the home page, and essentially the IDA has just a home page with links to the various documents that are required by ABO. And so I think that we would look to go out for a small request for proposals to discuss what options are available for us at a very reasonable cost. We're not looking to redesign the entire website because it's a relatively small website. It's really more, part of it is public information, documents. A part of it is also just providing information on development in the city.
Okay, so you'll do that, and we'll hear back from you
And
next
hopefully
month.
we'll do that at the February meeting, be able to go out for requests for proposals. And then I would look for input for all of our members, and perhaps have one or two that'd like to just sit and review potentially some proposals that come in, as well as taking a look at other IDA sites around the area as well.
And while this is more of a LDC issue, it will eventually impact us due to financing. Is there an update on the right of first refusal on the LDC properties for Tech Meadows?
We need to engage in two things happening. One is that we need to revise and look at our opportunity to have and solicit a real estate agent company. We have an interest from one. The proposal that they gave needed to be modified from a commission point of view, and also from a longevity point of view, as well as to ensure that perhaps rather than just selecting one, we should broaden our net and seek other potential qualified real estate brokers in the area for that to happen. And that really ties into the right of the first refusal areas. Carol did put that together. That was reviewed and approved by the LDC. And we've had some feedback, but really no response. Kara, our LDC attorney and IDA attorney, Kara?
Yeah, we haven't. We've circulated it to I circulated it to council for both 773 and Etain, and I think they forwarded it on to their respective clients, and we really haven't heard anything back with any sort of meaningful feedback, other than 773 was gonna handle it directly, so they kind of took their counsel out of the loop there. And John Lapper was gonna discuss that more with his client as to what to do with that project, because in that case, we do have, the LDC does have a signed contract there.
Right.
Okay. So that doesn't impact us directly, but I just wanted to do an update on that, and I think that's it. Any questions for Ed for his report? Being none, we'll end that part of the meeting. Thank you, Ed.
You're welcome.
The resolution that is before us today, and you have a copy, is our annual contract with EDC Warren County. It's for $9,500. Our payments would be quarterly. Are there any questions about that document or that resolution? There being none, is there a motion to approve the signing of the contract with EDC Warren County for those services?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions, any nays? There being none, the motion is carried. The contract shall be signed. Thank you. Any other business to come before us today? There being none, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.